Congresswoman Greene is joining us now live for her first CNN interview since announcing her plans to resign from the House of Representatives. Congresswoman, thanks very much for coming in. Lots going on. Yeah. This is Pamela Brown, not Pamela Greene. Just want to make that clear.
And she has a beautiful name.
She has a beautiful name.
Thank you. I'm proud of my last name.
That's right.
And your name is Greene, not Brown.
That's right.
I want to be precise. In addition to what we just heard there, President Trump posted yesterday that you are, quote, and I'm quoting him now, not America First or MAGA, and your, quote, new views are those of a very dumb person. That's the President of the United States speaking about you. What's your response to these latest attacks?
Well, actually, Wolf, I feel very sorry for President Trump. I genuinely do. It has to be a hard place for someone that is constantly so hateful and puts so much vitriol, name-calling, and really tells lies about people in order to try to get his way or win some kind of fight. And I think that's exactly what's wrong in America today. That's what's wrong in this toxic political environment that has ripped our country apart. And I personally think that that's poor leadership from a president. It's a very bad demeanor, and Americans are very tired of it. And unfortunately, I also am concerned because I don't think the president's team nor the speaker have told the president about the legislation that I've introduced, that actually much of it directly literally aligns with the agenda that he campaigned on, I campaigned on in 2024. Many of my bills are actually his executive orders in legislative form. And if the speaker would pass my bills, if the President Trump were to sign them into law, guess what? His executive orders, which make him literally a temporary president, his executive orders, which are my bills, would become law that would become permanent. And so I think it's very unfortunate.
Because when I hear him talk like that about you and insult you and attack you like that, I worry about your security and your family's security. And you've been getting some increasing threats, right? Yes,
and that's what I take so seriously. As a Christian, I'm not angry at the president. It's easy for me to say a prayer for him and forgive him. But the part that I have had a very hard time with is the fact that he called me a traitor. And because of his words, that brought serious threats against myself and my family. We had a pipe bomb threat on my home, a pipe bomb threat on my family construction company and staff, and had multiple pizza doxings. But the serious one was the direct death threats on my son. And I think that goes beyond anyone's arguments or disagreements or politics. All of our children and our families' safety should matter to anyone, no matter if they're mad at us or disagree with us. I think that should be something we respect.
And when you told President Trump about this, can you tell us a little bit more about what his reaction was to these threats?
Yeah, it was shocking to me. I sent those death threats directly to him in a text message and informed him of what his name-calling and words were doing, the direct result. And it was a direct assassination threat on my son. And he was extremely, I won't repeat what he said, but it was extremely unkind. No sympathy, no care.
I'm just wondering, and I mean, obviously it would be good to hear what he said, but do you feel like you were duped? I mean, as you reflect on this moment and these attacks against you, you have been such a staunch supporter and ally of President Trump. Do you feel like you were duped by him?
I feel, maybe I don't know if I would use the word duped. I think it's unfortunate for the entire country. And I think the message is, and many people are saying it directly to me, if the president, because I stood with rape victims, women that were raped at 14 and 16, victims of Jeffrey Epstein and others, they claim that there are other men. Because I chose to stand with them, that's what caused the president that I fought so hard for to get elected. That's what caused him to call me a traitor. And I think what many people are saying to me is, if he would do this to you, he would do that to any of us. And that, I think, is a terrible message to be sent to the country and many of the people that stood goodness, hours in line for a MAGA rally that I went to, by the way, and went to many of those rallies and spoke at on behalf of him. I think that's a terrible message to send. I think our country has been in a state of crisis for many years now. And what I personally want to see happen is all the vitriol and toxic politics to be put away, and leaders to actually work for the American people.
How much do you think President Trump is responsible for the toxic politics? I know you've addressed your own role to my colleague Dana Bash, but what about Trump himself?
Oh, absolutely. He's a leader in it. And so were others on the other side. I mean, we can look, there was a weaponized Biden DOJ against the president and his family, and state AGs that went after his family. All of that is extremely toxic and dangerous in itself. I fully am totally against any type of weaponized justice system for political purposes. However, it's the language that just continues it. And it's extremely unhealthy. It sets a bad example, but that's what has been created on I call it the political industrial complex. It's the two parties that are pitted against each other, and the president, he's a leader of that on the Republican side.
It's hard to believe a president of the United States is calling a fellow Republican congresswoman a traitor. I me's pretty awful.
Wolf, I'll add to that. I have a 98% voting record with President Trump. 98%. I don't see how that can be a traitor.
Can you tell us anything more about what he said, though, when you told him about the death threats? Because I think that's telling.
I don't want to, at this time, directly repeat his words, but I can tell you in nature, I literally was shocked that he was so unkind and accusatory. There were other things that shocked me, though. I sent those same death threats to his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and his deputy chief of staff, James Blair. They didn't even reply to me. And I would have expected at least Susie Wiles, who's a woman, a mother, a grandmother, I would have expected her to have said, this is unacceptable, we'll send it to Kash Patel.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee. And so one of the most important things we heard there is a Republican member of the House of Representatives linking Donald Trump to threats of death and violence if you're publicly criticized by Donald Trump. Other people have been saying this for years. Other people have experienced it for years. This is from Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is her saying, this is why I got those threats. This is why my son has been threatened.
It's one of the reasons people don't speak out against Donald Trump.
That's another point she was adding in that interview, yes, that other Republicans are afraid of exactly that.
And people sometimes don't believe it. It's not just that they think there's going to be political death. They actually are fearful for their lives, especially the people who voted for impeachment the first time. Look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I've gotten to know her over the last 5 months. And anyone watching that interview knows that when she's talking about the survivors, she is sincere. I saw her almost in tears. Anyone listening to those survivors. And she would say to me, you know, Ro, the president is going to come around. I just think that the president is going to be fine. We're not making this about Donald Trump. I think she was actually surprised that Trump was who he is, and that over this issue, he was willing to abandon her.
Yeah, and you have gotten to know her. This is something that no one saw coming, that she would be the one. She would be the one leading the Republican move to your side, which ultimately included all of them, the way you brilliantly handled this thing. And what have you, people were watching that last night. They're seeing different parts of it. She gets combative and fights with Leslie Stahl and other parts. You see more than one version of that person in front of us last night. What do you think, in terms of the Epstein files, is the way we should think about Marjorie Taylor Greene?
And she's a person of courage. I mean, look, Lawrence, people are complex. There are parts of Marjorie Taylor Greene that I strongly disagree with. But she acted honorably at every instance when it comes to these survivors. And she was moved by the survivors. And it's no doubt in my mind that she was not calculating something about what am I going to run or on the future. She was moved. I mean, you cannot hear these survivors and not be affected. The only person I know who wasn't affected after hearing this was Speaker Johnson. I mean,
Trump MAGA civil war is showing no signs of going away. And I think what Marjorie Taylor Greene has done, and I think she's done it effectively, is say, look, Donald Trump left MAGA. Like, I didn't leave MAGA. MAGA didn't really even leave Donald Trump. He abandoned us, because you got to remember that while Trump has certainly done a lot of the stuff MAGA likes, most of what Trump has achieved is actually benefiting the Republican elites. The elite not even 1%, 0.001%, that isn't really loyal to any party, but is loyal to being extremely rich and crushing the working class, broadly defined. And Trump has always put those people ahead of MAGA. The actual people that wear the red hats and go to the rallies, and that included Marjorie Taylor Greene in some ways. Look at his first term. Did the wall get built and Mexico pay for it? His key MAGA promise? Did they lock her up? No. Rich Republicans didn't care about locking Hillary up. They love Hillary and Bill. Hillary and Bill were great for rich Republicans. Right? They loved the 1990s Bill economy. Right? They also don't care about the wall and Mexico paying for. That's not their priority. What they did care about was tax cuts for billionaires, and they got those. Second term, tax cuts for billionaires, and they got those. Again, new tax cuts for billionaires. But are the files getting released? Something Trump ran on even more than the tax cuts. He talked about the files getting released? No. Who was at his inauguration? It was the billionaire class. Elon and Zuck and Bezos, a lot of these types of people were there, funding the inauguration, while his actual MAGA base was nowhere to be seen. They literally had it inside, so they were excluded from the process. So the MAGA peasants wouldn't sully the day. So it's true what Marge says, that Trump has abandoned MAGA. Doesn't mean that I'm sympathetic to MAGA, but it tells us why we are where we are. That he made a few key promises to the Republican Party, some of which were for the MAGA side, and some of which were for the billionaire side. And for the most part, the billionaires have gotten what they wanted, and MAGA, at least to some degree, has gotten shafted. And I think they're going to go rogue.